Hello there and welcome back to another episode of the Long Live Rock and Roll podcast with your host, Mr. Laz Michaelides, here on the screen opposite me, Mr. Felipe Amarim. How you doing, bro?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
How's everyone? We can't hear your answers.
I'm sure they're fine, yeah. Do you know what we haven't done in ages? A ceremonial Felipe cracking a beer open. So we thought we'd bring it back. You got to do it, bro.
Exactly. It's it's a cider today. Quite like it.
Oh, a cider. My bad.
Bad. They're not giving me any money, but I'm promoting them anyway.
Pretty
cool stuff. So yeah.
So
this is the sound of rock and roll.
Imagine that we need to categorically establish a sound for rock and roll that isn't an instrument or a riff. What would it be? A beer cracking? Most definitely.
Yeah,
well, welcome back to the show, guys. You might be wondering, maybe the title of the episode's giving it away. Maybe you've already read the description of our show, but you might be wondering, if you're watching us, what the visuals behind myself and Felipe this week are. And what we're doing is we're doing a show that we're calling, the title of this episode is Must the Show Go On? And what we're going to be doing is discussing virtual shows and holograms in music, which has been a big kind of talking point in recent months. You know, last year, Kiss announced that they were going to live on eternally in their music by creating avatars of themselves that they would then parade and tour around the country and the world so that their fans could still enjoy live Kiss shows. But without them, as older men now, without them having to actually do all the legwork of touring anyways. And myself and Felipe chatted about this, and we thought this is just so interesting. We have to do an episode on it. So that is the premise of today's show. So I suppose let's get into it. Do you have anything?
Yeah, can we start from that?
Let's
Kiss?
do it. Yeah,
that's a great point.
Absolutely.
I find it interesting. Well, you said interesting, and that's the right word for it, because I can't really...
Give me 2 seconds just to tell everyone that what we've done is in the show notes today, in the show description, we've put a bunch of videos on YouTube that is going to reference what we're talking to. You got the Frank Zappa hologram, the Ronnie James Dio hologram, the Tupac hologram, ABBA's tiny documentary, Kiss's Avatar announcement, and Gorilla's live performance. So watch them before you crack on with this show so that you know what we're talking about. Felipe, please carry on, sir.
Yeah, it's cool to watch those videos and give us an idea of how crazy is the world of
technology,
kind of half live gigs. It's not even live gigs anymore. Yes, so what we've got, and for those of you who are just listening, I've got Elvis Presley with an orchestra behind me. Elvis is on screen, the orchestra is real. So
that's
what
right,
is
yeah.
real anyway?
And behind me, I've got the Kiss avatars, the brand new Kiss, the virtual Kiss.
They look quite, I don't know. It's like a religious experience, isn't it? They fly, and it's like it's weird. Anyway, so Kiss, that was an interesting one because it kind of shocked me. So I'll tell you what I thought would happen with Kiss, and they have something that's so incredible. The fact that they've elevated the brand to a level that no band's got what they've got, which is like the masks are more famous than their own faces.
Yeah,
and the brand it went so beyond music, because you can buy anything with Kiss on it. Like you can have their faces or the band logo in literally any product that you can possibly imagine. So they make much more money out of merchandise than live gigs. And that's amazing. I think that's an accomplishment, and it's super fun when you think about it. A band that is like, it's a video game, it's a t-shirt, is the mug, and all the merchandise you're normally used to, but the condoms, they got everything. So it's just insane, right? And you would think that they don't need, at this point in their careers, to do something that damages the brand, right? And I had a feeling that because the image and the masks are so big and so widely accepted between the fans, amongst the fans, I would think, you know what, you could have any good musicians with those masks kind of pretending to be them, but like making it clear we're not Kiss, but we're hired by Kiss to be here performing their songs. Bear with me, because I have a vision of this, which is a much simpler thing they could have done. Okay. Right, two of the original members are not with the band anymore. Ace Frehley and what's the name? Peter Criss, isn't it? The drummer. Yes. Yeah, they're not with the band. They haven't been in the band for years. They did a couple of appearances and stuff, but so I know they got Eric Singer on drums, which is one of the best session drummers out there, and he now has the mask, I think, or the face painting that used to belong to Peter Criss. So they're basically keeping the characters alive, using different musicians. But yeah, okay. You have the two singers in the band that everyone expects to be like. They expect them to be there. So without them, maybe if you don't have Gene Simmons, you can't call it Kiss. But as you already have half of the band replaced by other musicians, and everyone's okay with that, why don't you just replace the whole band, keep the show going with the same structure, the same visuals and everything, but add something to the name. So this is not Kiss, just call it Kiss Legacy. You know what I mean? Like that's a great point. This is sponsored by Kiss. It's organized by the original members. They could do a couple of appearances once per tour, whatever, and that's like a tribute band with all the structure and the crew and everything the original band had, and they're good enough to perform those songs live. So I would go to that gig, but add something to the name. Be clever, like Kiss Immortal, Kiss Legacy, Kiss whatever. Don't just call it the band as the original band, and then no one can say anything about it. So I don't want to go, whatever. Now what they're doing is they're replacing the musicians for it's like avatars, and if what they showed at the end of the gig is what people are going to have, I'll be honest, it's just crap, because there's no live music in it. They've been replaced by an image on screen. And are they just gonna play the records? Is that it? Are you gonna have like the album, the original versions of the songs playing and the show on the screen?
It's very odd, go to isn't that? It? I definitely wouldn't go to that. No, I said, funnily enough, when I was doing obviously the research for the episode, I was looking through all the ones that we're going to talk about today, and the Kiss one I actually felt was the biggest letdown, because when I watched the announcement trailer, again, all the links are down in the show notes, it felt like a video game. And I thought, the characters were very video gamey. We're going to talk about how these other artists did this, because some of them had a fantastic method of doing them, but we'll get into that later. Kiss's new experience, this avatar thing, it feels too virtual. Sometimes it feels like you should rein in the technology when it doesn't suit the purpose. And if the purpose is to go and see Kiss, I'm thinking, you're not seeing Kiss, are you? You're seeing a screen with people on them. And like you said, I'm waiting to hear what they're going to do with the music, because it feels very, very cheap. And yeah, what am I trying to say? It feels very cheap and unauthentic if you're just going to put some visuals on a screen and have the records playing.
It makes more sense to me to consume any other of their products.
Yeah.
Buy their beer or the T-shirt instead of like it makes more. I would be happy to give them my money with that kind of stuff, but not to go to a fake concert, like, because at the end of the day, like, can't you just do that from home?
Yeah.
Isn't the live music experience something you couldn't have at home?
Very good point. And I remember during the lockdowns, during the pandemic, we had a few bands who were performing live and doing live stream. I mean, we were doing it, weren't we, bro? We were hopping around everywhere.
We did a couple of those,
yeah, loads of them, just live streams to audiences to keep people, trying to keep them sane during that really tough period. But there's an authenticity with that, because you're watching people perform in front of your eyes. Yes, you're seeing it on a screen, But ultimately, I think you get the payoff because you still see the live interactions, you still hear a live sound. You know, I've always maintained I love a live sound where they don't overdub it. So
Also, in some places like in the UK, you couldn't go actually and see a live band.
yes,
So it's like what's the next best thing? I can
yeah,
go on YouTube and start watching a concert or whatever. It's like I want anything that resembles live music and the feeling of being at a gig. So I'm going to maybe go on YouTube and watch a Guns N' Roses concert. Yeah, cool. Oh, wait a minute. My local band here, the guys I would go to the pub to see them or go to the music club to see them, they're actually doing a live stream. Okay, so they're playing right now. I can't be there in the same room. I can't have that feeling of being in a room, grabbing my beer, but I can grab my beer at home, watch them on my telly. And that was like the next best thing. Temporarily, everyone knew that wouldn't last forever. So that's all good. Now, if you have the option of going to a music club or venue and watch a real band on stage, why would you just watch a band on screen with literally no musicians involved? My point is, if they don't have any musicians involved, that's really, really cheap, as you said. I don't think.
Well,
I don't think it's what their fans deserve. They have the most dedicated fans in the world.
Yeah, we don't know how it's going to be. My hope is that, well, my hope is that there's a live band playing behind them. But I don't see how you call that a Kiss experience. Although what you said
you're going to use the studio voices.
Yeah, I don't know. What you said is fantastic. The idea of just replacing the band and just saying, listen, this is a Kiss approved live act. We found these guys. They're the best in the business at their instruments, or, some of the best. This is a Kiss approved live show called Kiss Legacy. And we're too old to carry on touring now. We're giving them the name.
We've been so kind, man.
Exactly. We're handing it over, handing the reins to them. And like you said, any bunch of good musicians that sound like Kiss can do a good job with the right production behind them. And so if you make the show look really good, all the musicians have got to do is put the face paint on, and then kind of the stagecraft does the rest, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of doing this, but I'm doing this. Like, it's really easy to criticize people and say, I would have done this and that, whatever. But to be honest, with that money, what could have been done is what Queen did. If you check there's a tribute act or show. I don't know how it is. I've never seen it, but I've seen videos of the auditions and stuff, called Queen Extravaganza. Is that it? Is that the name of it?
I did not know this existed until just now.
You can Google it if you want to. If I think that's the name of it, but it's kind of a Queen tribute band that was sponsored by Queen, and as far as I'm concerned, they actually auditioned the musicians for it.
Yeah, you're right. Queen Extravaganza.
Extravaganza. That's it. The interesting fact is Queen still performs, right? So, but how cool is that? They're like, this is not a replacement, guys. This is like a tribute act. Is sponsored by us. We've created it.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to say, so basically they are saying we chose the musicians. They probably do some appearances with them. I imagine they guest at some shows. Right. The thing is, this is the official Queen experience if you cannot go to a Queen concert, right?
And Queen tours are very few and far between. They don't tour all year round now.
Again, those guys are getting old. They don't need the money. They don't need to go through the hassle of being on the road with touring band. It's quite physically and mentally demanding. They don't need to do that. They do some special big concerts like the Queen Jubilee kind of stuff. That's the stuff they did. By the Queen, in that case, I mean Her Majesty, her late Queen Elizabeth. So basically, they can afford to say, look, this is the tribute act that we approve. That is the best thing you can have.
Yeah,
the closest to the original. So, why wouldn't Kiss just copy the formula? And they could have launched that band whilst they were touring.
So much better than Avatars,
before they actually say this is the last concert. Look, we already have the other band touring. Go and check them out. But now they're going to have the same screens and lights and fireworks, everything you have at the Kiss concert you're going to have. We just don't have the original musicians. So you're paying for a live music experience played by musicians that happen to not be the original band, which for me is totally fine. I'll give one interesting example. Yes, one of my favorite prog bands. I don't think they pretty much have no one from the original lineup anymore.
Yeah. We did our Yes episode. For any fans of Yes listening, we did an episode a while back. I think it's episode 18. So yeah, go and check out our episode on that.
Yeah, because
they're just constantly recycling members, weren't they?
Well, they change lineups every album, but it's like change one guy or two. That's fine. But now, since John Anderson left the band, the original singer, they got a guy who used to do a tribute Yes kind of gig, so he's got the same sort of voice. He's a fan. He's a great singer. I don't know his name. Sorry for not doing my research on that. But it's I've watched a couple of videos. It's a great band. Unfortunately, Chris Squire is dead, so there's no way you can have all the original musicians. And Steve Howe is in the band, but he joined the band on the second album, so he's not an original member.
Yeah.
See, he's a guy who's been with the band since the second album, which was like decades ago, but he's not an original member. So you have a Yes touring band that hasn't got a member of the original lineup, but it is the band. But to be fair to them, Rick Wakeman, when he was playing with Yes, when they did a kind of reunion tour with 8 members, like pretty much everyone who played in the band at that point in 1992, if I'm not mistaken, he said he wanted to see the band. He wanted the band to exist even after he died, and it's like, I want this band to be like an orchestra, right? If you say the Boston Philharmonic or whatever, well, they don't have any musicians from the original lineup. Obviously, they're not performing their own songs. We understand that. A rock band, they write the songs and they perform the songs live. But my point is, I believe if the lineup is changing, gradually, and those guys are now responsible for the legacy of that band, but that's been passed on to them by an original member or by someone who replaced the original member, then yes, it feels like an orchestra. They carry on with the work of an original ensemble that is not there anymore, and I think that's totally fine. But what's the main point? What is the main point for you? What would make you say that this is a rock concert? What is that for you?
Oh, do you know what, man? I didn't even ask you to give me such a fantastic segue into the next band, but you've just done it. So thank you for that. Let's talk ABBA, because ABBA have done the same thing essentially, but completely differently. So here's what we know about the ABBA Voyage. Again, go and check out the video before this section. ABBA performed their live show every day for 5 weeks in a row, and they captured it on 160 cameras. They did mocap, which means motion capture. So they dressed it up. If you've seen the video, they dressed all up in their suits with the little marbles on it to capture their movements. And so what they did, as I just said, is they performed for 5 weeks. They did a show every day for 5 weeks so that they were properly able to capture lip movement, arm gestures, waving hands in the air, the bass playing, the precision of a hand moving up to the higher thing when he changes key or whatever. This, to me, is how to do it properly.
Yeah.
Listen to this quote. So Ludwig Anderson, who was the producer of the show, said, "This is not a version of ABBA. This is ABBA." And I'm struggling to disagree, because although you're not seeing them physically in front of you on the stage, you are seeing literally the next best thing.
Yeah.
Weeks of performances captured and animated around them. And if you've seen the video, guys, you see the faces are fantastic. They look so good. And because ABBA are a throwback band, we need to sort of just understand that. Although they've got a new album out, or it was new a year or two ago, they're a throwback band. We all think of them in the 70s and 80s with the Eurovision and all that stuff, don't we? So that's why that they've put the faces of them back then on. Because when people think about ABBA, you think about Dancing Queen, you think about Money, 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 you think about all those hits whilst they were there. I think they've actually done this incredibly well, because there is a certain element of, I don't know what to say. There is a certain element of it not feeling right. Imagine you go and see ABBA and they're all in front of you and they're really old. Their voices are probably a bit shot. and I know that this is what a gig is. And if you love a band, you support them until until they're gone, you stick with it. But ABBA are different. I just feel they're different because we all, as I said, we all know them as a throwback band to the 70s. And I think they've done a fantastic job. And I think they've made the right decision in doing what they've done and sort of
Yeah,
doing motion capture and then keeping their older faces. What do you think?
and also, yeah, I think it was great actually. I was talking to a friend of mine, Frank Cook, he basically has a workshop here in Denmark Street, and is fixing amps for all the big acts in London, and he does some work for the band, fixing the amps for the band that plays the ABBA concert, and so that's the point. There is a band, so there are musicians playing, and ABBA, they are the faces and the voices, but they had musicians as a backing band when they were touring. So that's the thing with pop music. It's not like you expect your rock band, your favorite band, to be like capable of delivering the gig without any help. Sometimes fans are like, although we have Pink Floyd and other bands that played with like loads of added musicians in the band, but ABBA is a show where you have the main musicians or singers, songwriters, and you have a backing band providing that sound. And now that's what's going on. You have the avatars of ABBA, but actually, as I said, they recorded them doing all of those live performances.
Motion capture.
Exactly. And you have a band like they used to have when they were touring, playing live, which is the same sort of experience you have in the Broadway musical shows in New York or the West End shows in London. So you have a band or an orchestra, band and orchestra, and you have the theater show happening in front of you. But in that case, you don't have the actors, you just have the avatars. I think it's fine. There's something that makes it easier for them as well. As I said, people want to see their younger faces. People want to see a kind of they wanted a trip back to the past. They don't want to see current ABBA. They want to see that thing, and it's pop music. And I think I haven't been there. Well, the other thing is they did proper research. They invested a lot of money. I think they still kind of recovering the money that was invested, and it's like millions and millions of pounds invested in technology and structure, and they have their own arena, the ABBA arena, that hosts the show only, and it's like insane. So one thing about it, it's a proper experience that was developed in a certain way. So the funny thing for me is, I would say that considering the band, considering all the process they've been to put this show together, ABBA, I'm going to get cancelled right now. ABBA, the ABBA Voyage, that's the name?
Yeah, ABBA Voyage, yeah.
Yeah, it's ABBA Voyage is more, it's closer to a live rock gig than the Kiss Avatar that was being shown to the audience after the last gig. That's what I'm saying. It's much more of a rock concert, although it's pop music, than what Kiss is trying to do.
If you're going to get cancelled for that, then cancel me too, because I completely agree. I felt
ABBA's more rock and roll than Kiss. Oh,
there you go. That's the head. That's the title.
that's how I'm going to get cancelled.
That's how we get the clicks as well.
At this moment in time. So no one's going to mention that I'm saying about this, but
that's it.
Yeah.
I think if you just visually look at the differences between the Kiss video and the ABBA video, the Kiss one, as I said, it just looks like a video game. I don't think it looks good. Whereas the ABBA one, it looks like them. And why? Because I said it 2 or 3 times 5 minutes ago. They motion captured the band performing the gigs until they had every detail they could use. Now,
it doesn't mean that Kiss is not going to do that. They might do it.
Well,
this is guessing.
This is the thing. We still don't have any news about about Kiss's experience and what it's gonna, how and if it's going to expand. All we're doing is guessing, you and me, and we've seen these avatars, and they might actually do what ABBA did. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because ABBA did it so well. But at the moment, all we know is that we're getting avatars. Interesting thing here is George Lucas's company, ILM. They did both the Kiss avatars and the ABBA Voyage they worked on.
All right.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That is interesting. Same company.
Okay, so let's move away, unless you have anything else to say from the virtual side of things. And let's go to, I want to say, more realistic things in terms of like science and light and projections and stuff, let's talk about holograms.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start? Do you have anything to say? Kick us off.
Well, the hologram, I just the one that comes to my mind is the Ronnie James Dio gig first.
Yeah.
So if you can talk about that one,
Sure.
it's when did that happen? Was just a one-off show? I don't remember, but I've seen it at the
2018-ish.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, around late 2000 and yeah, 2018-ish. Let me find out.
yeah. It was probably after his death, I assume, or he was just
2019.
Yeah.
2019 was when it was going around.
Yeah, so his band, or some of the musicians that used to tour with him, played live, and that's not a screen, it's a hologram, isn't it? So you have Dio as a hologram. I'll say what I got from what I could kind of what I felt about that when I watched it. I was like, you know what, I'm really because my approach to anything artistic is like, I don't have to like this. I don't mind that something that I don't like exists.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If I don't like it, I'm not going to consume it, and that's it. It's all fine for me. I actually think people should try every possibility, and they did that, and it's kind of amazing that they've done it. But my feeling watching that was like, the band looks really awkward. They look like I kind of need the job, but it's uncomfortable. It's like I'm performing with the ghost of the guy who used to hire me to do this gig. And it's so awkward when you look at them. And because like Dio was interacting with the band. You see his hologram pointing at the bass player. Like, it's so, I don't know, it's kind of creepy.
It is unusual. Let me tell you what his wife said about it. So Wendy Dio, after the tour, so after they did this hologram tour, she said, some loved it, some hated it. I don't want to do it again. I want the real Ronnie. And what she means by that is that next time, if she does this, they're just gonna like your picture, they're just gonna have a screen. They're just gonna have a screen and play old footage of Dio on it. Now, what I think they'll do is they'll take, let's say Dio's doing, I don't know, Stargazer from the Rainbow days. They'll find a footage of him singing that with Rainbow, and then they'll make sure that what they'll do is they'll do it so that the band are playing in time with that gig, if that makes sense. So that it'll still look like Dio's performing it. It will be his voice, and we know from our Beatles episode that we can now split individual strands of vocals.
Also, there's a different thing. Most of the, if you're using like the studio versions of songs, the record labels, they have the tracks, the separate tracks, anyways.
Even, stems,
yeah. They have the tracks, so they can do it. It's not nowadays. It's not like overcomplicated to actually get that thing together, like a screen synced with the band. Everyone's playing with click tracks, like the metronome there is, like, so you can follow. They can follow the beat and play in sync with the pre-recorded vocals and the video. And what you have here on my screen is Elvis. And there's a few versions of these kind of more recent Elvis concerts, where basically they have there was an orchestra one, which is this, which I find quite cool. It's just a screen. You have his original gig at the back, and you have a live orchestra on top of it. There was one that they took, I think it was the gig he did in Hawaii or Vegas. I actually don't remember. There's one that they have his band, or quite a lot of the musicians who used to play with him, playing live the same, because they had high quality audio and video from a gig, and they have the footage of that gig, the entire gig on screen, and Elvis's band playing live on top of that. So a screen, I think, you know what? I've seen quite a lot of those in London. I've seen the posters. Didn't have time to go to any of those things. When they have a movie like The Godfather, like Lord of the Rings, you like that one, don't you? They have those movies, but the soundtrack is performed live by an orchestra.
I went and saw the Lord of the Rings one 2 years ago. Yeah.
So for me, that's like, it is basically a movie experience with live music. It's not mainly a live music. Well,
that's a great point, bro, because I'd never thought about that before. Because the emphasis is always on the artist, isn't it? You know, they say, okay, it's a Dio hologram. You're going to a Dio gig, Asterisk though, a little asterisk next to it. Dio will not be there, obviously.
Yeah, that's
But they
what.
still treat it as a concert. Whereas I like what you're saying, where it's kind of a bit more like, actually, this is a movie. This is a show. You're gonna go and watch, but there's gonna be a little caveat, and that's there's live music. So that's a really interesting
Yeah,
way of
it's
putting
like
it.
like, all right. Would you like to see a whole Elvis concert on a big screen? Well, it's kind of cool, but yeah, we're gonna have a live band, his band.
Yeah,
Cool.
makes a
Now, when you put
difference.
the hologram, I think they did an Elvis with hologram as well. When you have the hologram, for me, do you know what my point is? It looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
What's bizarre about it? Because it's not 2D like a screen. A screen, it's not the real deal. It's
Mm,
something that has been recorded.
yeah.
A hologram is trying really hard to fake the presence of that person, and it moves and it walks around on stage as a real person, but it's not. And
Well,
it's I don't like that.
it's really interesting you say that, and this actually brings us nicely onto the next gentleman we're going to talk about, which is Frank Zappa, because the Frank Zappa show was called The Bizarre World of Frank Zappa, and this was the same thing as the Dio one. But Frank Zappa always had big bands. He'd have anywhere between sort of 5 and 20 people in his band because his music was so intricate, some really long pieces, it needed all the instruments. So he did the same thing. He got some of his old band members, not he, obviously. They got some of the old band members and they got them to play with a hologram of Zappa in the middle. And the part of me that was really excited about that when they announced this was that Zappa died 4 years before I was born, and I slowly and gradually really got into Frank Zappa and his music, and I would have given anything to be able to see him perform live. And I think I remember when this news came out, I said, this might be my chance. And then the more I thought about it and the more that I went, how much Zappa I listened to, the more I went and listened to albums and especially live albums, because Zappa and the Zappa estate have released loads of live music. You start to notice certain things about the character of this man, like each show that he did on specific tours, that him and the band would just pick a stupid random word, and that random word would become the joke of the day. So instead of, let's say the word was anything, bottle, okay? That night, wherever the band could fit the word bottle into a lyric, they would. So he's got a song called Bobby Brown. And instead of one night, he'd go, hey there, people, I'm Bobby Brown. Live, it would be, hey there, people, I'm Bottle Brown.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but Frank Zappa said, I just like keeping things fresh and exciting when I'm on stage. We do world tours that last months and months. We've got to keep it fresh. You're not going to get that, are you? You're not going to get that with a hologram experience.
Well,
you're not going to get that authenticity. And just
also,
one other thing to add.
He was great at improvising with his guitar.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
How are you going to do that?
I've got my notes here. The real Frank Zappa has said, and I suppose he's proven, that he would never play the same solo twice. Yet, night after night, 10, 12 nights in a row, you're seeing the same Zappa as a hologram.
Moving
playing
in the same way,
the same way,
talking
playing
to the audience
same
in the
solo.
same way.
Well, it will be. It will just be a cut and paste.
Yeah.
And then this is where I ask myself, with everything I've just said, would I attend that concert? Because on one hand, I get to experience with his 10 musicians that toured with him in the 80s on stage in front of me. I get to experience what it might have been like seeing all these people on stage playing these intricate Zappa songs. Then on the other side, I know 100% I was watching a hologram. Not only obviously because it's been advertised to me, but that's just they've just done the solo from the album there. Zappa wouldn't have done that.
Didn't his son do like a tribute act or something?
Yeah, so I've seen them a few times. He's called the son's called Dweezil Zappa.
Mm-hmm.
And his band
player
is
as well, isn't it?
He's brilliant, yeah. And the band's called Zappa Plays Zappa because Dweezil Zappa plays Frank Zappa.
So isn't that, again, as I said, like Queen Extravaganza? Isn't that a clever use of the brand? You have a Zappa, not the Zappa, but you have a Zappa on stage playing Zappa.
That's a great point. I forgot about that.
You use the brand in a clever way. My point is, so you've been to that gig, you say?
I've seen Zappa Play Zappa a few times,
So were you disappointed that Zappa wasn't there?
Not at
No,
all.
because you knew
No.
he wasn't, and no one is trying to fake him on stage.
And
No one
funny
is
you
trying
say
to
that,
pretend to be him.
they put a screen down. So every of the few
All
songs
right,
that Zappa would sing in, just like behind you in your
yeah,
picture, Zappa was on the screen.
but not with his voice.
Yes, once or twice.
Oh,
So
really? Okay,
see, Zappa, that they actually hired a
I'm
guy.
disappointed now.
No. I'm
All
saying
right,
that they hired a guy who sounds
okay.
like Frank Zappa.
Ah, okay.
And he sang, let's say, I don't know, 90% of the songs he sang. But when
Yeah,
it was a crowd favorite or one that had a funny vocal thing that only Zappa could do or that Zappa came up with, they'd get him on the screen. And then just for one song, he'd kind of sing like that. And it would just
I
be
get it.
Zappa's vocals from the screen, the rest of the band underneath. But then, like I said, the other 15, 20 songs of the set would be a guy who sounded like Zappa in the band singing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, so basically, right. In that case, you have his band, and they're
yeah.
not feeling awkward about the hologram on stage with them.
Are you talking about
Because
Zappa plays Zappa, or
yeah,
are we
I'm
on the
saying,
Frank the
yeah,
hologram now?
Zappa plays Zappa.
So Zappa
I'm
plays
saying it's
Zappa,
like
yeah.
they're not feeling awkward because like this is just a gig as
Yep.
they played before, and you can actually do that as a tribute to the artists he worked with,
Yeah.
for those musicians. Like, okay, we're here, we're performing his music, we've done this a million times, and it's super cool.
Yeah.
He's here with us, but it's a live band. Everyone is playing live, and I think that's what I insist. Like, when I was younger, I used to think that's kind of weird that people go to DJ concerts. It's like, no, I mean, like when you go to a venue, there's a DJ. There's something, but when people go and see a
Yeah, like a, yeah.
if what those guys
You could call it like a rave. Or
yeah, but tell a couple of the famous ones. Fat Boy Slim's that their name?
oh yeah, yes, I see what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
Fatboy
So,
Slim, bands like
oh,
the
you had
Prodigy.
what's the other ones? I'm like I have no knowledge about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Wait, before I get cancelled, I need to say I was wrong with the Prodigy. I've seen the Prodigy live, and they are a band. They're not just a DJ. So,
all right, okay,
cancel me.
yeah,
Carry on, please.
Yeah, so you have people would literally pay a lot of money on a ticket to see a guy with a laptop
Pressing buttons, yeah.
pressing play, and what else does it do? Wait, okay, they do some effects and stuff.
Is your opinion still the same?
My point is, I don't find it exciting enough to go there and see, but here's what justifies that. Those guys didn't record with bands most of the time. They're not musicians, they're DJs. Mm-hmm. So what they do is like, this is what I did at home or at the studio. It's me on a laptop programming loops and creating beats and songs. So people are paying to see that person on stage doing what they originally did. It makes sense.
Yeah,
do you understand
right.
that? It's like it's not something that I find exciting because I like musicians playing instruments. That's what I like. But it make sense. That's what that guy originally did. Like when you go and see Paul McCartney and he's playing Hey Jude on the piano, he probably wrote that song on the piano. That's like the original experience. He was there at his home playing the piano. Oh, came up with a melody, played the song, and now he's live on stage with the band doing that. A DJ is not in a garage with his bandmates strumming their guitars. He's on his computer writing music. That's how. So it makes sense for them to do that on stage because they basically you're paying to see the person you like. Like I like this guy's music. I want to see him live.
And the other thing about DJs,
that's the experience.
The other thing about DJs is that when it's just one of them, they've got control over the entirety of the song, and that's what I commend on that because I was like you, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would have been this. I was just like, why are people paying to go and see someone on a laptop, But then very soon, I don't actually listen to this music at all, but I've seen some clips, and there's jokes in TV shows like Peep Show when they're talking about DJ. You've seen Peep Show, isn't it? Where he's like,
yeah, I love it.
What's the DJ doing? He's bringing it up, he's bringing it down. When they're really drunk in the club. But the control that DJs have over it, they have the audience in the palm of their hands.
Yeah.
Because you can let a beat sit there, and right in front of you are all the audience, and you can see how much they're jumping about and dancing or whatever, or they might be a bit timid. You can then adapt the music completely to change the audience. If you
Man,
think the audience are getting a bit bored of a beat, you bring in another layer, you bring in some extra snare or whatever, and then you bring it up and up and up, and then you hit the drop. Like, drop the bass, boom, 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 and then you can see the audience jumping in front of you. I think it's very cool. I think it's quite a talent to be able to
what I'm
control an
saying is,
audience in front of you.
I have no problems with that because it's not the kind of music I listen to. I don't hate the things I don't listen to.
Yeah.
You get it? So like some people are like, oh, this is really bad. I don't like it. So it's just not something that brings any sort of excitement to me. So I wouldn't go to a DJ concert. I don't mind being in a nightclub and you're in a club and there is a DJ.
Yeah.
Right. So it's fine. It's a venue. You're there, with your friends, having a drink or eating some food, whatever, and there's a DJ. It's part of the experience. It's all cool. I wouldn't go to see a DJ as a gig. Oh, there's this guy, because it's not my thing. But as I said, it is the original experience of that kind of music. This is a rock podcast. So when we're talking about rock music, what is rock music? Like live rock music. I'm one of those who believe that you shouldn't, if you can avoid backing tracks, playbacks and other stuff, you just should get rid of that. Have the you don't see an orchestra, but you say, oh, there's a few violins that have been pre-recorded and we're playing them.
That's a great point.
That's a really lazy approach. I really don't like that.
Yeah, no, I like. So
this is a band on stage playing their instruments. If you want to see a DJ, go and see a DJ.
So, moving on, but sticking with that theme, how did you feel about the Tupac hologram? Because Tupac, as a rapper, would rap over beats.
Yeah.
I felt that the Tupac and Snoop Dogg footage, that I believe that was actually the first one chronologically. I think Tupac did it first, then Zappa, and then Dio, I think, in terms of when the holograms came out. But the Tupac one, I found that to be the most immersive one. Because, as you mentioned,
there's an interaction with the person, isn't it?
You're right, but in terms of the band, as you said with Dio, you've got Dio pointing at that band member, and the band member's pretending to see Dio, and it looked a bit awkward. But with Tupac, there obviously isn't a band because he will rap over beats and samples and electronic stuff or whatever. I just felt a bit more immersed in it. What did you think of that one?
I have a question before I answer to this, because was that a full concert or just like
it was an award show,
right?
If I'm not mistaken. Oh no, it was a festival, Coachella 2012.
But he was there for the whole gig. It was his or his.
Well, do you know what? It was a Snoop Dogg and Tupac perform with Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, all these rappers. So
all these guys were there doing a full gig, and they had this as kind of a tribute to their friend.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if it was a Tupac show.
That was the case. Yeah.
I don't know if it was a Tupac show with friends or if it was a general rap concert. But yeah, tell me your opinion. I'll do a little bit of research whilst you're talking. What did you think of that one?
Because I initially thought that was a one-off, so it's an interesting one. Again,
okay.
I don't know what you think about it. It's an interesting one.
The headliners were Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, so that Tupac hologram must. What
I understood was like a Snoop Dogg gig.
Yeah,
the other guy's gig,
correct.
And they had him as a guest.
Yeah.
Or what I would say is like, okay, here's us using top technology to pay a tribute to one of our friends that everyone loves, and the guy's not there. I think that's cool.
It is different, isn't it? It's a different dynamic when you bring the hologram in for one show and say, or for one song, and say, like you just said, this is our friend, no longer with us. When you build a whole gig on it, just feels like it falls a little bit flat, don't you think?
It does. It's just, I don't know. All right. It sounds a bit old school, but when you go to like McDonald's and you go on the screen and you pick your orders, and then you get a number, and the person there just hands it to you, and that's it. And then you go to a coffee shop in a small town, and and then you talk to the lady behind the counter, and you ask a question about how's your day, kind of stuff, and then someone does a joke. You've seen that person before, and they give you your
And you watch your coffee be made behind him or
exactly.
her.
And
Yeah.
it's like everything has its place. If I'm in a hurry, I'll go to McD's, and I'm fine with that. But I'm a big fan of real human experiences,
Yeah.
and I believe like electronic music, DJ music, and all this stuff originally lacks that human element, but it's not. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It's just is digital by nature. Whilst a rock concert for me is that thing. It's like you want to see real people on stage playing music, and if one of them is a hologram and the others are people, I don't know. Would you feel comfortable as a musician if you're on stage performing and there's like a robot or hologram by your side? It's like, yeah, but
I think it just goes back to what you were saying about it's like playing a theatre show. Well, actually, no, it isn't, because you're right. The theatre show that has actual actors on it. It's odd. It is very odd. I couldn't envision doing it for too long.
The thing is, how did the audience react to this? I wonder. I mean, how successful are those shows? If the
none of them have carried on. Put it that way. The Zappa ones hasn't carried on. When Wendy Dio ended the Dio one, she said she didn't like it. The Tupac thing seems like a one-off. ABBA Voyage, I think that's probably one that will come back around.
But again,
Kiss
we're talking about how
started.
The ABBA one is it's endless. It's going to be there to the end of time. Okay, because there's a thing. As someone who lives in London, I got to say this: if you have two people and a sound system in a public place in London, some ABBA song is going to come out of it. It's a phenomenon. Like it's a thing that happens. Doing it like the other day was in Soho Square, like it's chilling, have a break between a lesson and another. It's like I'm going to just grab a coffee, sit on a bench, and just enjoy the day, look at the sky, and then some random dude comes with this big sound system with lights and stuff and starts playing Dancing Queen, and out of the blue, everyone in the square is like, everyone is there dancing and singing along. It's like it's something, It's so the ABBA concert, the hologram ABBA thing at the
forever.
ABBA arena, that's gonna last until the end of times, man. It was like the earth is gonna end, like the world's gonna end, and that.
But the ABBA stadium will still be there.
Yeah, that thing, the ABBA arena will be there, and they're gonna be performing to no one. But that's if London can't exist without ABBA. They are connected somehow. But anyway, having said that,
sorry, go on.
No, I think it's again, there's a lot of planning into that, and that's why it will survive. And also, it's not rock music. So I think rock fans, we let's say like us, like rock fans, we're famous for being quite demanding, aren't we? We want the real deal.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What I was going to go on to next was kind of linked to Tupac, because obviously they had the Snoop, he had the Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre with Tupac, the hologram coming on. Yeah. Now, this takes me to one of my favorite bands, actually, a band called Gorillaz. Yes. It's almost like it's gone the other way around, isn't it? Because nowadays, if you go and see Gorillaz, you know who you're seeing. But before, people did not know that the singer of Blur made his own band with an animating artist and produced 4 unusual characters who released this music. Now, I was very young.
It does sound a lot like Blur, though, in my opinion, his voice.
His voice, definitely. But I don't know what happened when it came out. As in, I was 10 years old when Demon Days came out.
I'm old enough to remember that. And
so tell me the reaction. Did people know immediately it was Damon Albarn?
I think some people guessed. I've heard some of my friends say, "Oh, it's him," and I can recognize the voice. Because if you're a big fan, you kind of recognize the way the guy sings, even if you add shitloads of effects. But I didn't know. I'm not a Blur fan, so I wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah.
And the regular kind of music fan, people who were watching MTV at the time, you want to see what's coming up. And there's this band, and someone said, "Oh, this is a real band, but they have these avatars." I think that was quite the thing for that time. It was impressive,
Mm.
and it's interesting, and the music is a mix between rock music and electronic,
Yeah.
so it is
Yeah.
kind of cool. And they kept the secret for a while until they revealed these are the guys playing, and I think
But
I liked it.
you know, a funny thing, Paul Simonon from The Clash plays bass for Gorillaz.
Oh, right.
Really
Oh, is
cool.
that it? Okay.
But
I didn't
if you
know.
look at the video that I put, the Clint Eastwood live at the Brits,
Yeah.
that's really cool because you've got the virtual band on the screen, and then you've
And the
got the
real
two
band.
guest rappers coming out.
Yeah.
There's another show. It's called Demon Days Live in Manchester, I think, and they play the album in full. The band are on the stage, but for I don't know if it's the entire show or not, they're silhouettes. So they're just shadows. So you can see Damon Albarn sitting at the piano and the keyboard playing the songs, and you know it's him, obviously, but you never see the light on him because they just make it a shadow for the whole gig, and the rest of the musicians as well. And I think that's really cool because for me, that is the perfect blend of all of this stuff we've been talking about. You've got the original band members, the original songwriters on stage playing the music live, but silhouetted, blacked out, if you like, so that, you know, although we know who it is, we still think it's a virtual show. And on the screen behind them, you've got all the animations and the animated band playing the music, or, you know, appearing to play the music. I think it's great, and I really do love Gorillaz. They're one of my favorite bands, and
Well,
yeah, very good stuff.
I think the fact that they, you know, they came up with those avatars, those characters, but I think there was a plan from the beginning to reveal who is behind it.
Yeah,
And
you have to think eventually
yeah,
they would
yeah.
have.
And also, I think they never actually had the gig without the musicians playing, right? They never
As
had
far
just
as I
like,
know, yeah.
yeah, they're always there behind the screen or somewhere playing the music. And also, they didn't. That's an important thing, a really relevant fact. They didn't exist as a band before. It's not like this is a real band that now has been like Kiss. Now we're just replacing them by avatars.
I see what you
They
mean, yeah.
started as avatars. It's
Yeah.
almost like they started as avatars and then they came into the real world as
It's the
musicians.
reverse, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the reverse. It's okay. That is unique. Nothing like that happened before in the history of music. And you know, what a great invention. Let's put it like that. Yeah. So
the only
them.
other example I had to talk about was a Michael Jackson hologram, which actually, the more I read into it, I found out the more disappointing it was, because it was an impersonator.
Mhm.
They got an actor to play him and then hologrammed him onto the stage or something. So it's kind of like, it just feels like there wasn't really much effort put into that.
A
So I don't really want to,
hologram of
an
an
impersonator.
impersonator.
When you may as well just put, yeah.
How far from the real thing you are? Just get the impersonator live at least.
Exactly. I just didn't get that sometimes, but they might have adapted it. They maybe I only saw a bit of it. But just to finish off then, a couple of quotes that I thought was really interesting and relevant to this. So the David Draymond, the singer from the heavy metal band called Disturbed, when he spoke about the Dio hologram, he had this to say: "It isn't letting the dead be dead." And I also read, I think it was maybe it was the Zappa article, the Zappa hologram article on Forbes. This quote: "Being dead is no longer an impediment to touring." I thought it was really clever, funny one, that one. But there you go, two quotes that stuck out to me most when doing my research. And I thought the David Draymond one was interesting. Do we need to just take a step back and say, listen, Ronnie James Dio is dead. Frank Zappa is dead. Tupac is dead. That's
Can
enough.
we just accept it? Yeah.
They did what they did, and they gave us all of the fantastic talent and music that we got from them, and they'll be remembered for that. Should we just leave it? What do you think about that?
I'm with you on that one. Again,
it's not me necessarily, it's the guy, but you agree with that quote?
Yeah, but I agree with that quote, and I imagine you're saying this because you like the quote. So
no, do you know what? I don't entirely. I haven't thought about it enough to make an opinion, but I just found it interesting. It stuck out to me. It isn't letting the dead be dead. That's a big statement.
It is, in a certain way. It's kind of true, because what I'm saying is, I don't mind watching a DVD of a performance that happened 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, doesn't matter. You know, we do that all the time. DVDs of the bands we liked. When I first got into Floyd and Zeppelin, those guys were not around. So I was watching the DVDs, but I know that's footage of the real thing, and I'm watching on my screen at home. I wouldn't like to go to a gig and see. Do you know what?
It's so
I like
funny.
tribute bands. I don't
Yeah.
mind people impersonating the acts live on stage and doing it. That's my thing. But ultimately, what matters is if the audience rejects what you're offering, there's no point in doing it. So that's why some of those shows are so like awkward that they couldn't carry on with it. So in the end of the day, it's like, are there enough people out there really asking for more of this?
Yeah.
If that exists. Also, we approached like a million different versions of this kind of artificial and real performance mixed together in different ways. So there's lots of ways of doing it, and I think some of those ways are going to survive. I'll definitely go and see this, you know, Elvis, a video of Elvis and an orchestra playing live. I don't know if I would like to see a video game of Kiss on a screen unless they get their shit together and put a good show with musicians. I don't think I would go and see it. So that's my opinion anyway. So it's just an opinion.
You really hit home to me when you said, and what you said is so obvious. Like, I don't know why I didn't think about it, but when you said we can watch DVDs of them, it then just immediately sprung a question in my mind. Well, why would I go? What last night my dad came round and we just chatted and hung out and watched had some dinner, and we watched do you remember the Led Zeppelin DVD you and me watched when we were on tour in Brazil? Do you remember that night we got really drunk at the party and just put Zeppelin on until
I don't even remember.
Oh yeah, maybe not. And we put that Zeppelin thing on and we were up until like 5 a.m, weren't we, just with Zeppelin on. It was amazing. And I just remember specifically the John Bonham fills at the end of Kashmir. I remember you and me, we were just there like, what the fuck is going on? But why would I go and watch? Zeppelin's a bad example because of
there's no fake version of it. But why would I go and watch a hologram of John Bonham? Like,
why would I do that when
the three of them are alive?
Yeah. But why would I do that when I can just put on a DVD and see how they all worked together? Let's use Zappa. Why would I go and see Zappa's musicians, who, to be fair to them and to be honest, aren't the most important thing? Why would I see them play Zappa's music with a pre-recorded footage of Zappa, them pretending they're interacting with Zappa, when I could just put on a DVD and see Zappa and his band interacting back in the 80s?
Yeah.
My opinion has actually changed through this episode, bro, in this last hour.
Yeah.
Because I was very much like, oh, do you know what? I'd consider that. I might go and pay money for it. And now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what would I go and see? Would I go and see Tupac? No. Would I go and see Gorillaz? 100%. Would I see Kiss? No. Dio? No. Jackson? No. Zappa? I'm on the fence because I love Zappa so much, but I think ultimately, if I was looking at 70
okay, but if you had the opportunity, if you had the choice to between Zappa hologram show and Zappa play Zappa again, would you go to see Zappa play Zappa again? I think I would go to that one instead of the hologram.
That's really interesting.
You know,
and yes, I'd agree with you. I think I'd go Zappa play Zappa.
It's funny that you mentioned Zeppelin. Think about this, right? In 2007, they got together again and performed one gig. And I love to see Jason Bonham playing a full concert with them because he played, feel like short gigs with them, but not like a whole concert like that. And I think his performance is brilliant. It's beautiful. Some people might not like it. Oh, it's not his dad. Yeah, but this is a proud son paying a tribute to his dad with one of the greatest bands in the world.
It was the most appropriate personnel fill-in ever, wasn't it?
You can't think of a better musician for that job. Now, imagine it wasn't that. Imagine say we're not going to have Jason Bonham. We're going to have a hologram of John Bonham and his pre-recorded drum tracks. That would be awful.
Yeah, it would.
Just say.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that. They had a real musician playing music on stage, which is the kind of thing I want to go and see. You know,
There you go.
Again, and I think there's a lot of people who don't like some of those hologram stuff, and that's why they're not profitable. Maybe.
Forget whether you like the music or not. Just yes or no. Would you go and see the Tupac hologram?
If it was just him, I wouldn't. If
Okay.
it's like a Snoop Dogg gig and then you have him as a guest, yeah, fun.
Would you go and see Gorillaz?
Sure.
Would you go to the Kiss virtual show?
No fucking way.
Dio hologram?
No fucking way.
Zappa hologram?
Nah.
ABBA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I knew that. Yeah, I'd go for ABBA as well.
See, and I like
brilliant.
Zappa. Okay. Yeah. For the record, I must say that I like Zappa more than ABBA. When the camera is off, I might say something else. Okay, but for the record, I like Zappa more than ABBA, but I wouldn't like to see that show, don't I?
Yeah. I think the cynic in me says that it's a money make machine, isn't it? It's it enables bands like Kiss to just put something out there to go and get a shitload of money. And you know, it's still going to cost, it's still going to be expensive. I don't imagine a ticket to this show is going to be 20 quid anymore. I think it will still be upwards of 50. Yeah. That's the cynic in me. But the positive sides, here's a few things I thought of. Fans in hard to reach countries might, I don't know how, because obviously you've still got all the logistics of moving a show around, but I don't know, I just felt that this would benefit people in countries that the actual musicians wouldn't go to, you know.
I'd rather have a really cool like sound experience with lights and stuff in a screen. I don't like the hologram thing. Yeah. It just doesn't.
Let's forget that then.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have anything else to say, bro? I think we've hit an hour. That's, I mean, great discussion. I really enjoyed that. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I just want to say that I enjoyed my cider and I enjoyed the conversation, and it's yeah.
Perfect. Cool.
Thanks to everyone who has been listening to this, and give us your opinion about it. Would you go to any of those concerts?
Yeah, whether you're listening,
and
whether
why?
Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening, find a way to get in contact with us and tell us what you think about this. We'd really love to know what the consensus is. I suppose when this episode comes out, I'll do some stories on my Instagram and find out what people's opinions are. But that's it at the end of another episode. So once again, thank you for joining myself and Felipe on the Long Live Rock and Roll podcast. We say it every week, but I'm going to say it again. Please do what you can to help us. Any little interaction helps us so much. Like a post, share a post, subscribe to the channel, like the YouTube video. If you're on the podcast thing, give us a rating. Any little thing that just takes 10 to 30 seconds of your time is the world of difference for us, and it really helps. We're an independent podcast, and we do it because we absolutely love talking about music, and we love that you guys love it as well, because you're tuning in every week to listen back again, and we want to keep doing it for as long as possible. So thank you very much for joining us.
Always an enjoyable experience, and please keep supporting us, because we kind of raising money to do the hologram version of this show. You know, so we don't need to work.
Yeah, we've done the show for 2 years. We can't be fucked anymore. So
yeah, there's enough information out there for AI to recreate our voices and faces. So
I was wondering where you were going with that. When you were like, "We're raising money," I'm like, "Oh God, what's he going to say?" To get holograms of us.
Anyway, guys, just remember, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and keep on rocking.
As usual, guys, take care and long live rock and roll. Real rock and roll, not virtual rock and roll, right? Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.